Welcome on Thursday, September 25th. Today we're talking about Deuteronomy 19. So, when Yahweh your God cuts off the nations whose land the Yahweh your God is giving you, and you dispossess them and dwell in their cities and in their houses, you shall set apart 3 cities for yourselves in the land that Yahweh your God is giving you to possess. You shall measure the distances, divide into 3 parts in the area of land that Yahweh your God is giving you as a possession, so that the manslayer can flee from them. So manslayer was someone who committed involuntary manslaughter. It was an accident. Um, the example that Moses uses is when someone goes into the forest with his neighbor to cut wood and his hand swings the axe to cut down a tree and the head slips from the handle and strikes his neighbor so that he dies. He may flee to one of these cities lest the avenger of blood in hot anger pursue the manslayer and overtake him. So the point was these needed to be close enough that people could get to them. Not close enough it was easy, but close enough that no one could overtake you. And then you would live in that city until the high priest at that time died. And then you could go back home. Involuntary manslaughter would not result in death, unlike if you murdered someone. The person can make it to the sanctuary city. These that we're talking about here are Kadesh, Shechem, and Hebron, or Hebron, however you want to say it. They already had 3 on the east side of the Jordan that they'd set up, and they had these 3 on the west. And then God says, if Yahweh your God enlarges your territory as he has sworn to your fathers and gives you all the land that he promised to give to your fathers, provided that you are careful to keep all the commandment which I command you today by loving Yahweh your God and keeping ever in his ways, then you shall add 3 other cities to these 3. So, I think it's 9 because they would have already set up the 3 on the east side of the Jordan, and they were talking about expanding more north and south and then having to add more that way. If they did what God said. I think if we read the Bible, we kind of tell that was not. So the avenger of blood was someone in the victim's family who would have been assigned to exact the penalty for murder, which was death penalty, which was penalty for a lot of stuff. Because the point was not, we're going to get rid of all these people. It was for purity. And it ends with this. If anyone hates his neighbor and lies in wait for him and attacks him and strikes him fatally so he dies and he flees into a sanctuary city, that's kind of what they are, sanctuary cities, then the elders of a city shall send and take him from there and hand him over to the avenger of blood so that he may die. Your eye shall not pity him, but you shall purge the guilt of innocent blood from Israel, so that it may be well with you. So, again, this is purge the guilt of innocent blood. The point is purity. It's not to punish people. It's not to torture people. So in 14, we kind of switch directions a little bit. It doesn't really fit here. But we're going to be talking about you shall not move your neighbor's landmark or the boundary stone, which the men of old have set, an inheritance that you will hold in the land that Yahweh your God is giving you to possess. So if you remember back, the year of Jubilee, so every 7 years, debts would be forgiven. Every 7 years would be 49, and that 50th year was a year of Jubilee. So anytime you sold your property and some other people got to work it and live there, every 50th year that would go back to your family. So that was the year of Jubilee. This was a way of keeping land in the families, to keeping them bound to the land. And when you own something like that, you care about it more than if you rent, generally. This was akin to stealing not just from people, but an offense to God, because God was the one that set the tribes where they were to be. So, then we get back to criminal law that deals with punishing people. A single witness shall not suffice against a person for any crime or any wrong in connection with any offense that they have committed. Only on the evidence of 2 witnesses or of 3 witnesses or more shall a charge be established. If a malicious witness arises to accuse a person of wrongdoing, then both parties of the dispute shall appear before Yahweh, before the priests and the judges who are in office those days. The judges shall inquire diligently, and if the witness is a false witness and has accused his brother falsely, then you shall do to him as he had meant to do to his brother. So you shall purge the evil from your midst. Again, this is about people living the right way. It's not torture and punishment. You're going to be under someone's thumb. It's about make good choices, live the right way, and purge the evil from your midst. And the rest shall hear and fear, shall never again commit any such evil among you. So they won't bring false charges because they see, oh, look what happened to Joe over here, or Bob, or Fred, or whatever, or Keenan, maybe that scumbag, I don't know. But your eye shall not pity. It shall be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot. Now, that was the punishment if you struck someone, if you hurt someone, then that was a limit to how much that someone could get you back. That also applied for if you were bringing false witness against someone. So it's important to remember that this also wasn't about punishing. It was establishing a limit of how far you could exact payment from someone. There's a part of me that wishes that we did this in America. That if you accuse someone of something and they were going to get a certain penalty, if it's found out that you falsely accused them, that you should get that penalty, whatever it was. The part that makes me uncomfortable is how far the rest of the justice system has gotten from God, how far we moved away from God. I don't trust the justice system as it is. I don't know why I would trust it to do something like this. So another thing to remember that we've talked about a few chapters ago was that the hand of the witnesses that were bringing the charges were the first to start the punishment of someone. That was another way to keep people from bringing false charges. Because, yeah, if you accuse this guy of something, well, you're the one exacting that punishment. It's one thing to accuse someone. It's another to take parts of their body or take their life. I would hope. He said, she said, it's very difficult. It's harder in the age of AI because people just make so much stuff up. There's a lot of... I can think of a few cases where there was one witness and the courts just ran away with it. Not because there was any reason to, but because they were biased. One reason, and I don't care if you care for my example, but E. Jean Carroll accused Trape of assaulting her. There are no witnesses. It's he said, she said. Whether or not you believe him may come down to whether or not you like Trump. To be honest, that's what it seems like. When they went to trial, she did not have a day, a month, a year that it happened. How was someone supposed to defend themselves against that? To me, the court should have done nothing. You bringing this charge, they made a special case for her to bring this charge well after it should have been brought. And there was no way to defend himself because when did it happen? I can't give her the month. I can't give her the year. Well, then what are you bringing? You're bringing a case to people who may like or hate the guy, and he can't even really defend himself because he can't say, well, at this time I was here, so I couldn't have done this. It's just a matter of judgment of what you think of someone's character in that case. And the principle in this of saying it should be life for life, eye for eye, tooth for tooth, hand for hand, foot for foot, was a principle to guide the judges in assessing damage, not gouging eyes or cutting off hands just because. The one thing that the law like this gives us is that it put everyone on the same page. Everyone's on a level playing field. No one has a leg up on anyone else. In the New Testament, Jesus talks about if someone slaps you, let them slap the other cheek because eye for an eye, tooth for a tooth is not a good way to live, and it's not. If it seems ancient and outdated, well, yeah, it does. That was more of a limit set to what you could get back from someone, not, you're going to take his eye then. Like, there's a way to look at it that brings a little bit of grace into the whole situation, and another one we're like, man, these guys are barbarians. Well, God was the one that set it up. Is God a barbarian? I don't think so. Overall, the justice system we have in America today is in some ways kind of crazy. If you have money, you can get off on something on a technicality, even if everyone knows you did it. And there's a lot of the stuff that I wouldn't want the U.S. government to try to fulfill because we don't have a moral foundation on biblical principles to even do that. Well, I don't like the cut of his jib, so he's guilty. Well, I think he's a dirtbag, so he's guilty. Well, yeah, well, she's not reliable, so Of course he didn't do it, even if the evidence is overwhelming. You need a moral people to make judgments like this. And in America today, it seems like we generally don't have that, which is unfortunate. How do we get back to a country maybe that we want to live in more? Live out your morality. If you're a Christian, spread the gospel. If you think that the Bible is a better way to live than some of the crazy stuff we have going on, share it with other people. Let the way you live be an example. Tell people, hey, there's a better way. And Jesus is that better way. So as we get into the rest of the week and the weekend, think about, how do you want to live? Do you want to live in a society that has fairness, that does not let people take advantage of other people? Or do you want the system we have, which in a lot of ways seems broken? So happy Thursday and have a good day.